Yeah. Okay. Great. I have COVID, and then I have COVID, and then I also have. I don't have COVID, but I have something. I have COVID. I have a weird little fuck. I have some stuff from actually in the town of Awesome that relates back to BLM.
Nice.
And a recommendation from or something, an article that I read from the New Yorker today that I think is like a really good read.
Cool.
And then a funny, weird story that I picked up from the local news.
Nice. All right, cool. I will follow your lead, because I think that's probably what I'm best at.
Okay. Hello and welcome, WID listeners, to another very special episode of Rose and Blake. My name is Elliot Rose.
And I'm Sadie Blake.
And as you may
Like,
remember
I never know if we're gonna do a bit.
I mean, that's part of the
you
fun,
say
right?
Your
It's
name
like...
and then I'm like, shit. What do I say? What do I say?
Just like the
I
indecision
guess
starts
I'm
immediately. Like,
Sadie.
oh my god, do I say my name? Oh, will it not be funny then?
Like, I don't often feel pressure to be funny around you. It just sort of happens naturally. But that is the one time when I'm like, oh god, what if I say it and it's not funny?
Look, as we've proven with each other for 5 years, like whenever somebody throws out a joke, like the other one's gonna pick it up, you know?
Yeah.
So like if I wasn't thinking that we were playing right there, like I would immediately start playing. You know.
Sure, but like, do I want to play in that space? I don't know if I do. It's a very small sandbox.
Play with me. Play with me in my space.
Come play in this space with me.
There it is.
Anyway, now that
so-
we've both said our names more or less properly.
Yeah, Elliot Rose here with Beyblade
Shady
Blake. Stupid. God. I was like, what sounds like Sadie? Beyblade. Like, does it?
Elliot blows and Shady Blade.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. Oh, shit.
Oh shit.
Man, if we're ever in a fucking, if anybody ever wants to use us for a D&D campaign, please just have our nom de plumes of, what was it again, Sadie?
Elliot blows and Shady Blade.
Elliot blows?
Blows like, you know, from your fists.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I totally thought of before I made that name up.
Yep. Elliot blows, I guess. Not badly. And Shady Blade. That's pretty good. But we had it was kind of therapeutic, at least on my end, to talk to my best friend, about
The air fryer.
And then talking to Sadie afterwards after I got
I know where I stand.
Shit. I mean, like, if you ding and I get like a delicious, a perfectly warmed up piece of pizza, then we're like, we'll talk.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen, man.
I believe in you. But like I had a remarkably, it was good for my mental health to talk to
Yeah.
my best friend about the goings on of the world and just to try to like deal with it, right? And so I felt like there was a lot of I felt like there was a lot of good that came of it, at least from my end. And I think, I hope that's true for you too, Sadie.
Oh, it was horrible.
I thought so, but like, but being is how I'm the man in the friendship. We're gonna do what I want.
Touche.
Oh my god!
No,
if you ever fucking edit this so that I sit and you use that against me, I swear to God.
Oh, that would be it would be like a thing that I just edited together for myself, just out of spite. I'd never publish it. Find it on my hard drive when I die.
Man, that was from 50 years ago. She really held on to them shits.
No, but it was really good for me too. I very thoroughly enjoyed that conversation, and I was really, really glad when you said that you wanted to do it again.
Yeah, it's been and I'm glad I'm glad that you asked me to, about possibly doing this, because I don't know if you guys have noticed lately, but man, the news it keeps coming. It just never, it's not stopping. Like there isn't like, it's not like we're not like getting a break, right?
Yeah, there are no slow news days anymore. Like, gone are the days of reporting on like a kid stuck in a claw machine.
Man, that would be such a okay, here's my morning routine. Not that you care, Sadie, but I don't care either. Anyway. Okay.
I'm glad we agree on that.
Yeah, remarkable. We are so close on that one. But like I wake up, reluctantly, and I make myself some coffee, and then I walk to the mailbox because I have like one of those little paper holders for like newspapers that say like Seattle Times, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It's an anachronism now. Nobody fucking has those, except for like out here in the boons. And so like I get a morning rotation of 3 separate papers, right?
You're so old.
You're
such an old man.
Yeah. We on top of the pops for the national news, we have the New York Times. For statewide news, we have the Seattle Times, because that is the only real paper of note in the Washington State area. And
Don't
then
let
for
the stranger hear you say that.
I can't order the stranger up here. Like I wish I could.
They're online.
Right, but I read my news. Look, you want to know like the best
fucking hipster.
I'm not a hit. Like, look, my auntie asked me what I wanted for my 16th birthday. She goes like, "You're 16. It's a big year for you." I was like, "Every year's a big year for me, baby." She's like, "Don't ever say that to me." I was like, I'm sorry, miss." And you're not a rapper. I was like, "Oh, one day I will be." He never was. She goes, "What do you want for your birthday?" I was like, "I would really like a 7-day subscription to the LA Times." And she goes, Jesus. And she bought it for me. Like, God love her. She like it wasn't inexpensive. It was like $40 a month for 12 months. Oh, wow. She like, I don't know why, like, such a kind woman, but like it was like my favorite. Like I would go to school and I would cut class to read the paper.
God, you're such a nerd.
And so like I would read the paper, come back in for like art class, fucking like doob it up, and then fucking then buy the New York Times from the Starbucks and read that for the rest of the in my other classes. So like I know, but like but then I get the Skagit Valley Herald as well, which is like,
all right.
Here's an interesting thing to note. Okay, so front page news of the New York Times: DACA ruling. right? Because we are
Right.
recording this on Friday, so big news about DACA, right?
Yep. Friday, Juneteenth.
Friday, Juneteenth. Headline news for the Seattle Times: DACA, right? Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a big deal.
Kind of
know
a headline news for Skagit Valley.
Oh, boy.
Do you have a guess, my friend?
So many guesses. We could be here all night.
So, headline news is volunteers water workers are curious about how the season will progress. They did their online classes to be ports. They work in volunteer portsmen, I think. So like that's front page, and I looked through the rest of the paper for any news on DACA, because usually, for a big story, local papers will get something from like the AP because
right. Yeah.
No mention. So I was like,
not on DACA, huh? I'm so sorry. So sorry for that. I choose to love you right now.
I
appreciate that about you.
It's an active choice.
I mean, they say that's what makes a relationship last.
This is true. I mean, like, I don't know if they ever got the pun "nada for DACA." Just stupid. That's I'm just dumb. I have like a professional jealousy. That's so stupid and funny.
That's what I'm best at, man.
But speaking of the news, right? On this day, Juneteenth, what was previously scheduled was in oh crap, Tulsa. It's Tulsa, right? Yeah. Previously scheduled on this date, Juneteenth, is Tulsa, Oklahoma. Trump's rally, right?
Yeah. Well, and just in case there are folks listening who don't know the significance of Juneteenth, because I didn't until embarrassingly recently. June 19th was the date in history that the slaves were emancipated. Big deal. Kind of a big deal, I've heard. People seem to think so. I wasn't personally affected, so... Jesus. Very big deal. And then Tulsa, Oklahoma is also significant because that was the site of one of the worst race riots in history in, if I recall correctly, 1921.
Mm-hmm.
So, go ahead.
Where Black Wall Street existed, and Black Wall Street was an area where African Americans actually had built up wealth and were actually fairly well heeled, especially
and the
considering
white people hated it so much because they're assholes.
They could not hate it more. So what did they do? They destroyed it. They burned it and killed hundreds. And what happened to the history of that place? It got wiped away.
It is now being explained on Two Idiots podcast.
Yep.
80 years later. No,
yes.
100 years later. I don't know how math works.
99,
yes, 100
right?
years later. 21. Yeah. I do know how math works.
Well, 99, right? Because it happened in 21 and we're at 20.
Duh. I don't know how math works.
I mean, like, to be fair, like, I had to think really hard about it.
I mean, it's like, I don't know if you ever get this, but I feel like if I can't get all the facts right, like, I just shouldn't fucking say anything, you know? Like I said, the thing about emancipation, and I was like, I should really know what year that is. I can't just pull it out of my ass. Somebody else listening to this will know, and if they don't, there's Google.
Yeah, exactly. when it comes to that sort of thing, like that's something that held me back for a number of years, which is just like I needed to, like, I would never I had a big problem when I was younger where I needed to appear to like know everything,
Yeah.
and it was like one of those things where like and then I learned that you could just lie, and you could just like you could just say something confidently and people would believe you.
Yeah.
And then I had to
the internet
unlearn
came
that.
and
And
then there
then
were smartphones, and that all went away.
yeah, it was like you had to unlearn that and be like, okay, maybe you should just be humble right now. And like you should just like look it up on your phone real quick and then pretend like you always knew it.
Yeah. And yet, our president. Just
and
saying.
that's the thing, right? Because here's a confluence of events, right? Still
Yeah.
going on, as it should be, is the ongoing movement for Black Lives Matter. That isn't a huge deal, and it was taken, I think, rightfully so, as an affront and as an assault on the values of Black Lives Matter to have a president who recently was found to have used Nazi imagery in Facebook ads that were stricken from Facebook.
God.
Yep, he used
Just- Oh.
he used red triangles, which was used as a marker in Nazi imagery for enemies of the state, and he did 88, which is code for the SS, right?
Wow.
He did 88 of those ads, and there's some other numerology with it. Facebook, which is famously like, hey, man, we're fine with it. Even Facebook was like, hey, we're actually not fine with this one. And this isn't, and mind you, this is not like a group who supports President Trump and is like doing ad buys on his behalf to, help reelect him. This is from the Trump campaign proper, right?
Yeah.
So think about how horrifying that is.
Yeah.
Like a man who I read this comment, a man who is borderline illiterate is like a Svengali when it comes to white nationalist imagery. Like he's like the smartest man in the world when it comes to like fucking incorporating white nationalism into anything. But like you fucking say like, hey, should you look at the sun without glasses or even directly at all? And he'll be like, yeah, of course you are. Don't be a fucking
sure.
idiot.
Yeah, that shows how strong you are.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's this man whose brain was like, look up at the sky without any fucking glasses show that you're weak. Can fucking figure out how to fucking use Nazi imagery every way. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I read a really interesting article about it's like this one guy who basically took it upon himself to be like the social media PR arm of the Trump campaign, like back in 2014, 2015, whenever Trump started like beginning to consider running for president in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think it's all that guy, honestly. I think Trump is just like, yeah, cool, do whatever. And this guy is like super, super good at just whipping people up on social media. I'll see if I can find that article. It's horrifying and also fascinating.
Yeah, that sounds like it. And like the fact that the the campaign would be totally fine and commit money to using things that use white nationalist imagery is horrifying. And so it's no coincidence that the current president of the United States would hold a rally of his on Juneteenth in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And here's where we get into an intersection, right? Because, yes, Black Lives Matter is happening, and we have a racist in chief, I personally believe.
Yeah, I don't think that's really a debatable point, honestly.
Yeah.
He said some pretty racist shit that ergo, henceforth, heretofore, and therefore he is racist. Anyway.
But not only that, like we are still in the middle of a global pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And we are such at that point that like 20 states recently have seen a wild increase in their numbers of infected. And the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma is freaking out because the Trump campaign is going to hold this enormous rally.
Indoors, by the way.
Indoors without proper spacing, right?
Or ventilation, or like I read that they have agreed that they will have somebody there to hand out masks, and that's it. Like, they're not going to require people to wear them. They're not going to require people to like use hand sanitizer. There are like two Republicans in government in Oklahoma that, like, when they were asked if they were going to wear their mask, they were like, I don't know, maybe, probably, I don't know, we'll see what happens. Probably, maybe.
Well, yeah, and like, here's the thing, is that the president himself, I hate saying that in conjunction with him, right? The president himself has made masks a political act. He believes that if you wear masks, you are wearing it to spite him. Yeah. And it's like,
because
no.
Everything's about him. Didn't you know? Did you not get that memo that like everything you do is about him?
I know. Yeah. Like, it's weird. Like, I certainly think of him when I'm taking a dump. This one's for the Gipper, I say.
Like, you can't see any color but brown. Oh yeah, I read The Giver.
But you know, I actually
Jesus Christ. Sorry, that was very good. Please continue.
But here's something that I think is a really good point, right? Which is we talk about during the early parts of the COVID-19 crisis, and which we are still going through. There was this thought that when people say, hey, that's an essential worker, right? Who were the essential workers? Healthcare, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, people who help the basic necessities of life continue mm-hmm. forward, right?
Yep. Grocery store workers, delivery drivers. Mm-hmm. All the people that society has been shitting on relentlessly for decades.
Yep. And
not that I have feelings about that.
Yeah, it's and it's also one of those things where if you are a hero, that also means that you're expendable, right? Like, yeah. I don't care, like, your personal life doesn't matter right now. I don't care if you are afraid. Like, you have to do this thing for society to function, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because what do heroes do? They sacrifice themselves for the good of the whole, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the entire hero story, is I go off and sacrifice something, usually my life, to become a hero and to save whoever or whatever.
Yeah, and it's and as the states have suffered, you know, as the economy has suffered and as people have become unemployed, there's been this big rush in a lot of states to reopen, right? Mm-hmm. And so my friend,
mostly so they don't have to hand out money, by the way.
They like, hate it so much.
Yeah, that really occurred to me just today. Like, we wouldn't have to rush to reopen everything if they were giving people money to live on, or mm-hmm. freezing rent, say, or, mm-hmm. you know, any of the millions of small things they could have done to fucking make this less fucking miserable. But, like, it's so fucking entrenched, this idea of, like, well, if we give somebody a handout, right, then they're just going to come to rely on that handout. And, like, they're never going to go back to work because everybody is essentially as lazy as I, the government, am. Like, really, that's the mindset. Like, I really think these guys are like, well, you know, if I could make money without doing anything, well, if I could make money doing even less than I do now, I absolutely would. So mm-hmm. that must be what everyone does, right? It's not like anyone finds meaning in their work or enjoys working or like has been told that that's the thing that they should do and that's the thing that they should make their life about.
No, you're 100% right. And
I know. Sorry.
And here's some news from the governor of Texas. The governor of Texas has ruled that the state of Texas kids will be going back to school in full force starting at the beginning of the next school year, which is later this. Jesus. Now, the number of cases.
Pro-life.
Sadie, come on. When they say that, there's a very small parameter. They really are super. They are really on board for like the first. Oklahoma passed a bill recently, right? Outline abortions after 12 weeks. So yeah, I mean, like that first 3 months of life, fucking sacred. You know, God's
Precious.
in every child.
Yeah, every sperm is sacred. Just, like, I don't live by the Gospel of Monty Python or anything, but that one was fucking spot on.
It really was. So here's the numbers in Texas, right? 2,700 new cases per day on average.
Jesus.
3,516 yesterday. Now, the state of Washington, and we are much smaller. However, we recently had a rise that is at 354 cases yesterday. King County itself just barely got into phase 2. And if you don't know what phase 2 is, well, I mean, some people will.
If you don't know
phase
what phase 2 is, don't worry, nobody does.
Phase 2 is like limited opening of businesses. With strict guidelines about space, right? They're still not home delivery. There's curbside delivery. And if you go into a place, if you go into a restaurant, it can only be at 20% capacity, right?
Right.
That's where King County is right now. Nowhere near being able to host 30 students in every class, right?
Yeah. Never mind thousands of people crowded together, asses to elbows in an arena. And just to remind people, like, we were first. Like, it came here first. So I feel like if anyone is the furthest along in their COVID recovery, it's fucking Washington. Like, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's incredibly irresponsible to put. I don't even think there will be. I don't even think there is. I don't think he's going to have it be a necessity that kids wear face masks. If I remember
why
correctly.
would he?
Yeah, because like, so what I'm trying to say here is, what is happening right now, on top of everything else that's on top of all the social unrest, like, there is a biological threat to humans, which is a disease called COVID-19. And as much as we may want to politicize it, you will still get sick. You will get sick if you do not take care of yourself. And weirdly enough, if you don't try to take care of your neighbor. And how do you do that? By wearing a goddamn mask. And does it suck to wear a mask? I mean, out of all the things this year that suck, I feel like that's the least. That's the least amount of suck.
Pretty much,
because
yeah.
I have been wearing when I was working in the hospital and having to go in, I was wearing a mask for 8 hours a day. Oh no. How terrible was it to wear a very thin mask that didn't hurt me at all and that allowed me to breathe? The worst thing about wearing the mask? I had some condensation on my glasses. Ah, God.
I mean, that is a pain in the ass, to be fair.
Yeah. It's a pain in the ass, but I would take the consistent condensation for getting COVID.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think
It's a
now
close
that you
one
put
for
it
me.
that way, I think maybe I agree with you.
So
when you put it in those terms, it really clarifies a lot of things.
So here's what I would here's what I would say. Like, even if your city government or your state government is not requiring it, just be selfish on this one. Yeah. Be selfish. Take care of yourself and wear a goddamn mask.
Hey, you know what? Actually, this I'm glad you brought that up, because this is something that has been driving me bananas, like, pretty much since the beginning of this thing. And that's like these people being like, well, the guidelines around masks keep changing. Like, first they said don't wear a mask, and now they're saying do wear a mask. And like, so I work for a nonprofit that does a lot of work in global health, and as such has done a lot of work with COVID and is still doing a lot of work with COVID. And so, like, we've been watching this very closely from the very start. And our CEO is pretty knowledgeable about this stuff and has, like, basically gave us guidelines on the masks, like, as the CDC and the WHO were gearing up to say the same thing, right? And so the misinformation around the masks has just been driving me bonkers. Like, the reason they initially said not to wear masks was, number one, there was a limited supply, and number two, the disease was not in the US yet. So there wasn't any reason for people to go out and panic buy masks, because all it was going to do was cause a shortage for people who actually needed them. Right?
Yeah, lest we forget what happened with toilet paper.
Yeah, never forget. The 9/11 of the paper industry.
Oh, God.
God. Bush did TP 9/11. Anyway. I don't know what I'm saying. Jesus. But then COVID did hit the US, right? And then suddenly everyone was like, oh, no, they tell us to wear masks. Da, 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 da. And there was like, is it effective? Is it not? Do masks cause a greater risk of getting COVID? Do they not? Da, 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 da. And I think there's a lot of nuance being lost between, like, regular ass surgical or fabric masks and N95, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, the N95 masks are a very specific type of mask that are scientifically designed to filter out as much of the air you're breathing as possible, including things as small as viruses. Like, fabric masks made from your grandma's quilting cotton, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much engineered to do that. So it really depends on what kind of mask you're talking about as to whether or not it will protect you from inhaling COVID. And that's the other thing, right? Like, people are like, well, do they protect you or don't? Well, they don't necessarily protect you from getting COVID. They protect you from spreading COVID. Like, I was talking with Brian about it last night, and I said, think of it this way. Not that he needed explaining, but, you know, we like to yell about things that we agree on. So I said, like, think of it this way, right? Let's say you have a plastic shopping bag. Even though they're banned in Seattle, you've gotten your hands on a plastic shopping bag. And let's say you vomit into that shopping bag, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably, if you get it all in the bag, you're not going to get that much on anyone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say you have that same shopping bag. And let's say everybody around you vomits on you. That shopping bag might stop it from getting in your mouth. That's about
right.
it. That's what the mask is meant to do. It is meant to stop you from vomiting COVID on everybody around you. It is not meant to stop people from vomiting COVID on you. That's a super gross analogy, but it's the best one I could think of.
Yeah, and it's also one way that I heard it described, right, was it transmits via it transmits via bodily excretions, right? So like you cough and the
mostly
spittle comes out.
droplets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if that droplet can hit your mask, right? And it is a barrier to getting to you, right?
Right.
Externally getting hit with it. So basically it's the same, like, and like I will never forget about I will never forget your analogy of the vomit with plastic bags. Speaking of plastic bags, they actually have them up here, so if you would like some, I have so many. But I am making a anti-vomit suit out of them, so but basically, like, here's where it comes down to, right? Which is, it is better than doing nothing. It is a form of protection, and it is very simple to do.
Yeah.
You put something over your face, and you only have to do it when you're around people that you're unfamiliar with, right?
Yeah, people you don't necessarily share a house with.
Yeah.
And so really, from what I understand, only if you're like in enclosed spaces with them. Because like, I think the science has mostly shown that like it is not as likely to spread outdoors. And I think, we'll see in a week or so when, the
BLM
symptoms. Yeah, like once, when we're a couple weeks out from all the protests and the mass marches that have been happening, like if it's going to spread, it's going to spread there for sure. So, but like from what I've heard so far, it doesn't seem like a lot of people have been falling ill who were like involved in these massive protests because they're all outside. Yeah.
So like even less work for you to do, right? You just have to put something on your face if you are going to go to an enclosed space with people that you don't share a household with. So, hey, even if you have to fill up your gas tank and you just use your card at the pay pump. Hey, you don't have to wear it. That's fine. You're cool, I guess.
Take some hand sanitizer, which honestly was good advice for gas stations even before all of this.
Yeah, but, very true.
Yeah, you don't need to wear a mask. Not necessarily.
But when you go to grocery shopping, hey,
wear the fucking mask.
Yeah, and also like think about the poor people who work there, who are just exposed to everything all the time. Like I worked a position like that. I worked retail. I remember how absolutely miserable it was that not only did you have problems downloaded on you by people who didn't know how to feel anymore, so they would just like all they knew was anger. But now it could be deleterious to your health in more ways than one, not just emotionally, So like, think about that. Like, just be kind to somebody other than yourself, and wear a GD mask if you are going to be in an enclosed position.
Yeah.
Space.
Well, and also keep in mind that like these people are the ones that are the least likely to be able to afford time off if they get sick, or healthcare, going to the doctor. Like these are also things that our government could be fixing, by the way, and has chosen not to. They have chosen not to provide healthcare to the country during a pandemic. They chose that.
Yeah, it was insane when I had because I was a contractor for a lot of years, and when I had to buy my own health insurance, right? And
oh my god.
Yeah, and you did it too, right?
Yeah.
What was your monthly bill?
After the tax credit I got, I think I paid, I want to say like $130 a month.
Oof.
Yeah, maybe more. I don't recall exactly, but like when you're making $17 an hour, that's a lot. That's a lot to pay per month.
Yeah, I for some reason I didn't qualify for the tax credit. And so my monthly bill was $525.
Jesus fuck.
Yeah, and it was just like, Yeah, exactly. Jesus fuck, that's and like I'll tell you this much, like it was the healthiest I've ever been. I'm like, if I'm paying this much goddamn money to see a doctor, I'm seeing a doctor every
All the
fucking
time.
month. Yeah, it's like, what's up, doc? He's like, you got to stop saying that. I'm like, never. Just like, I'm gonna be
You're
aggressive
taking a
about
carrot
it.
to the clinic with you just so you could say that.
I'm a card. It was like just the stupidest one. I did a checkup, and then I did another checkup with another primary care physician a month later. I was like, fuck it.
The doctor's like, yeah, you seem totally healthy. And you're like, I need a second opinion.
Yep. It's like, I know, I agree. I agree with the first doctor. It's like, you're all quacks. Like, and like, thankfully, oh God, that was actually like a growth. Not, I didn't have a growth. But that was a moment
You
that I
have
learned.
COVID, you have a growth. What's going on?
Just a mess. Like,
I'm dying. Yes, we all are.
That was one of the weirdest things is like I had to, the breathing test where like they put the cold stethoscope on like your chest and your back, right? So I did that for the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, did you know that you have a birthmark on your back?" I was like, "No, I do." And she goes, "Yeah." I was like, I've had a number of intimate partners, and I've never been.
I've had one.
Do I count as one? Because I've had me. I have had, I have had at least 12 opportunities for somebody to tell me that, right? And no one ever has. Like, and I was like, I wonder why. Like, they don't need to, but like, I was like, huh. And so I took a.
Oh, just like odd that it never came up.
Yeah, it's like, because my freckles have been brought up, but like never that birthmark. Just. Yeah. Well, maybe it's because like I never allow people my back position, I keep them in front of me at all times, DTA, don't trust anybody.
Yeah, that tracks.
But like I just thought it was so weird that like that's the way that I learned that I had a birthmark on my back. So after the COVID talk, we are still heavy on the BLM, and I think this is a really good point considering, the white nationalist iconography that was being used by the president's re-election campaign. It is not enough anymore, and it never really was, but we fooled ourselves into thinking it would be. It is not enough anymore to simply not be racist. Like if you say, well, I'm not racist, that's not enough. And it never was. I think we were all hoping that like maybe we could just like run out the clock on this whole racism thing. We'd be like, oh, glad that's over 700 years in the future,
We wanted to take a knee, but that got political.
Yo, but
thank you.
But no, exactly. Like, it is not enough to just not be racist yourself. Like, it has to get to a point where where we have decided as a society that we do not tolerate racism. That is not tolerable, and we will take actionable steps to combat it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and I just saw somebody sent a typed letter to Jeannie Buss, and I don't know, Jeannie Buss is the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers, right? And he wrote it in that weird Courier font, so it looks like somebody who's deeply unhinged. And they wrote,
it's like practically cut out of magazines.
So close to it. And he writes to her saying that he's been a lifelong Lakers fan, However, he is he addresses it to "Dear Whore," right?
Well, that's a good start.
Solid.
That's that's a good way to get them on your side immediately.
Sound.
If you open up a letter like that and you're like, I want to hear what this guy has to say.
Boy, yeah. How can you be so controversial yet so brave?
Truly, you are too edgy for us.
3 edgy, 5 me. And so he starts off with that. He then says, I've been a lifelong Lakers fan. However, seeing these high-paid N-words makes me sick to my stomach. You and your team should join Kobe Bryant. Sincerely, Joe Blank. Right?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Jeannie Buss shares this. It gets picked up by It gets picked up by Yahoo.com, right? And so Yahoo runs it.
Appropriate.
And I go into the comment section of Yahoo. And,
never do that.
Well, here's where we get into that spot, because it was listed as like LeBron James has a response to racist Laker quote unquote fan, and he just, when she called out the letter on Instagram saying that there's no room for it in the organization or with her fan, the fan group of the Lakers, and LeBron gives like a hand clap heart sign, right?
Nice.
So I'm looking at and like there are obviously people who will just like say racist shit or say racist shit, and then I get to one that says it's simple as this: this man had an opinion and LeBron James had a different opinion. That's all this is. It's like, no, actually, that is not the same. It is not that simple.
Yeah, no. Yeah, see, the problem is this guy's opinion has done serious and irreparable damage to thousands of people for hundreds of years. LeBron's opinion is right.
Yeah, and
that's the difference.
And so, exactly. And here's the thing, right? Like people who do that claim of like both sides or whatever, or like, hey, it's a free country, everyone's entitled to their position. You are entitled to your position, but I am entitled to really go hard at you for that position. Because what is that famous saying, right? If you have one Nazi and 11 people allowing them to talk, you have
12 Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are getting to a real point where that's a thing now, that we thought we beat the Nazis and Dickety 4, right? We're doing the run back, and like fuck them. They're going to lose again, because it's not enough to just be like, hey man, I don't criticize people. Like I have many friends who come from a wide spectrum, so on and so forth. Good for you, but like that's not enough anymore, because it is shown to us just omnipresent. It seems to be omnipresent that people who hate other people based on their skin tone or their religion, they are coming out in full force. And like takes it, if a good man stays silent or a good person stays silent, then you didn't do enough. Like this needs to be combated. They have come out in full force, and they have killed protesters, and they have run over people. And let's not forget what happened in North Carolina.
Right.
They have no compunction about killing people. And I'm not saying that we should kill other people. I'm not saying that I stand by that. But I am saying that I will not let it. I will not be silent in the face of it.
Mm-hmm. And I also won't be too terribly sad if they do happen to just drop dead.
I really hope I hope millions attend the Corona rally. That's a self-selecting group.
Yep.
Right. And it's
the same thing as like, let's take off all the warning labels and just let the problem sort itself out.
Yeah, and then
old joke.
Yeah. But like, I think the hard part, right, is that like they will run into people who like to have no affiliation, then you start to do the contact spreading that way. So there's the bad part of it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
The collateral damage, as always.
Yeah, and as always, it's going to disproportionately affect poor people, people of color, people who don't have a home or a doctor or money or time off.
Yeah, and yeah, of
or
course
a
it will.
penis also. Also that one.
So this is true.
Like,
So
that could be a whole other episode in and of itself. It's just like the effect on women and people of color on all this.
yeah, actually, I've read that the Latinx communities are seeing a huge spike.
Yes. Yep.
Because of course, I do have to say this. My a community close to where I grew up has recently been in the news.
Oh.
Sadie, here's a quick game. Was it good news or bad news?
Was it Awesome Town?
It's not. It's close to Awesome Town.
Then it's definitely bad news.
Ding, ding, ding.
Sorry, I don't have a well-warmed piece of pizza for you. There's no pizza. Terribly sorry. I failed you yet again.
So I completely forgot about that.
I love it when I get you with a thinker like that.
So, my hometown, no, you know what? Not my hometown. My hometown is actually Eugene, Oregon, where I spent a large part of my adolescence. Just north of there is a place called Antelope Valley, and Antelope Valley is a place called Palmdale and Lancaster. And in Palmdale, a recent case of, and perhaps you've heard of this, Sadie, a African-American man in his 20s was found hanging in a tree.
Oh, I did hear about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And east of there, in a city called Victorville, another black man was found hanging in a tree. Right? And it's been...
And they're like, oh, it was a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, maybe.
Definitely
not.
And there's been there's been all in toto, five cases of black men hung in trees. In Oakland, a tree had nooses placed around it. Hey guys, I'm going to say this right now. It's really unlikely that a black man would publicly hang himself from a tree. Of course, that's not to say that the police, who have been nothing but honest and forthright, are lying to us, or just ignorant, or just didn't want to, or lazy, right?
Yeah. Or racist.
Here's what I can tell you about, from my limited personal experience. Here's what I can tell you about Palmdale, right? Mm-hmm. Palmdale is about 30 to 40 miles north of Awesome Town. It was where one of my first girlfriends, she came from there, right? And so I would drive up there every other week. It's unlike Awesome Town at the time. It was a heavily black-brown community. Everybody in Awesome Town considered Palmdale, Lancaster. You were not.
Was it a quote bad neighborhood?
Yep.
Yeah.
You were a lower class type of person if you lived there. And I remember, like, I felt such, not dismay, but like I felt trepidation whenever I would tell the family or, family members about where my girlfriend lived, right?
Yeah.
Because that carried with it judgments. And yes, it was looked down upon by the whites south of it. And in 2013, it was found that the government, the city government, targeted black and brown people at a poor black and brown people at a disproportionate rate to get them evicted from their apartments.
Jesus.
So, given the history of Palmdale and Victorville, I would say that perhaps the police should look into it.
I feel like that's really, literally the least they could fucking do.
Sadie, we've seen the least they could do.
Oh, right. Yeah, forgot about that.
But here's something on a brighter note. Because Christ. I mean, like, let's be grateful for what we can be grateful for, right? DACA.
Right.
And protection for the LGBTQ community.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. We had, hey, if you're a conservative, get fucked.
No, but like seriously.
Like, yeah. Oh God. But like, so there are some good things mixed in with just the tidal wave of shit. Yeah. Did you know that the city of Tenino, Washington, has wooden currency?
I did not know that.
Yep. What? To help people during this recession and during, the global pandemic, the city government has in the past used wooden currency and given it out to citizens to use at local businesses. That way, the money doesn't go straight to like, hey, Amazon. It stays within the city government. It stays within the city itself, and the proprietors give the wooden bills to the government, and the government cuts the check for the amount to the businesses.
Jesus Christ, that's fucking brilliant.
Isn't it?
Holy shit.
And it's a really cool looking currency. So that's in Tenino. They have wooden money.
Can you send me a link for that? I'll put it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So
that's super fucking cool.
Yep. Did not find that in the Seattle Times or the New York Times. Skagit Valley Herald.
Well, move over, DACA.
Well, I think on that note, for Elliot Rose, I'm Elliot blows.
And for Sadie Blake, I'm Shady Blade. Good night.
Good night. God damn it. I forgot what my last name was concerning that. I was like, fuck, blows. Of course.
I mean, the resignation in your voice was perfect.